Okay, onto the stator side. Now, this side has our drive gear for the chain that goes here. So I've got a seal that goes in here. And I'll show you, I'll cut in a clip right here and show you what I dealt with if you didn't see my disassembly video. Okay, so as you saw, I'm going to go with a new drive gear for the chain. So the gear has two seals. This seal here is on the bottom, rides on the driven side. This will slide in. Then there's another seal on this side that seals the sub-transmission. So the chain's exposed to the dirt and debris and doesn't get into the crankcase. So we're going to seat this seal now. Our next thing to go in is the timing chain tensioner. So it's this ring is the timing chain tensioner. It drops in here and it pivots. So the timing chain comes from the cylinder head, goes around this drive gear, and this tensioner bears against it. And it is tensioned by a simple spring and a plunger that comes in from the bottom here and presses against this tab. So I've got the original spring, got the plunger. I'm going to replace the rubber cap. It's held in the bottom with a bolt and a crush washer. I have a new crush washer. And this little bolt has a stepped edge that centers that spring to hold that spring centered. So, existing old crush washer, new Honda part. There's your part number for new crush washer. this timing ring is held in by 3 little tabs. 2 are identical, these 2 here. They have a little upturn on the back, and then one is different. It is more pointed and it has a little bent down tab in the back. The oddball one goes over here, and in fact there's a little notch in the case where that tab drops in. The other 2 go around the case here and here. Now these don't hold that ring tight, the ring will still spin. So this timing tensioner is held in with 3 screws. As with everything on this motorcycle and this engine, someone's been in here before and completely destroyed them. I'm going to replace them. They're 6mm. I have more cap head hex 6mm, and it'll give the next guy a chance, a fighting chance, to take this engine apart again. These won't hold this timing tensioner down rigid. It will still turn and spin and tension under the tension of the spring. Still spins. I will torque them down like everything else. I don't want them to come loose. For the plunger, I don't have a part number for this rubber cap. I got it from Beatrice Cycles. Say that Beatrice has this as rubber cam chain tensioner all. It's their part number 35D as in David. So we will shoot a little oil. Spring. There it comes. I'm just snugging that down for now. I don't know if I'm going to need to loosen that. I don't think so. I don't think so. And the last thing that goes on this side is the oil pump shaft. So this rides on the chain, the timing chain runs through the crankcase and turns the back of the oil pump. So there we go. Now it's engaged. So the chain will come through, run over the top of this, around the crank, under the tensioner, and back out to the head. That's it until we get the stator in here. So the stator is next. Okay, back at the stator side. I misspoke. We just have to put the timing chain in now. I have a new timing chain. It's the old one. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I'm in here. Timing chains are cheap. I'm going to put a new one in. There you go. For those who want to know. Don't know where I got this from. Beatrice probably. So we'll put this in. Goes in down the wall of the cylinder head, over the crank, around the driven oil pump chain. I can get it set right. Around the crank. There you go. So there you go. And the tensioner, you can see how the tensioner will work to tension the chain. Okay, and that just kind of flops around for now until you put the jug on. All right, now stator. Let's talk about stator. So this motor clearly had a hard life. It had been opened many, many times. And the old stator, I never tried to start this when I bought it. The old stator, this is it, significantly damaged. Some metal got in here somewhere and split these plates open. The guy I bought it from said he tried to start it, couldn't do it. But if you look, definitely here, some piece of metal got wedged in between the windings here and the stator. Here is the flywheel. You can see on the magnets how it gouged here and here. I don't know if this is what demised this and it ended its spark days. I don't know. I'm not going to take a chance. I bought a used one off of eBay. Here it is. Here's the flywheel. Nothing's wrong with it. I can tell you, having just done this, these are pretty strong magnets, and they attract metal. And I've been trying to pick little metal bits out of here, and I think I've got 98%. I got everything. It's really obnoxious to try to clean these, but I did it. I think I'm there. So this drops on, tapered shaft, drops on with that Woodruff key. So that drops on, and then big bolt, there's a dimple in the top, big flat washer, and I'm sure there's a torque spec in the manual for this one, and I will relay what that is shortly. So let me come back and get that. Okay, we spun around here. 27 Newton meters. That's what we're going for. Now I got to keep this from turning. If I was smart, I would have left that bracket on the clutch basket on the other side. I didn't do that, so I'm going to go back to my old school. I used 2 blocks of wood and the wrist pin here on the end of the connecting rod. I don't think this is too much force on this. I may be wrong. I use this method to break the whole thing apart, so I'm gonna keep going with it. So I put the 2 blocks of wood in. They kind of get captive in there. Connecting rod, wrist pin. There you go. The bigger thing is counter holding the case so I can get the 27 Newton meters. We will see how that goes. I don't want to bend these rods. They are my best force, but we're going to snug and we're going to keep going and see what we do. But like I said, counter holding the case is the problem. not a click. Counter holding the case is the problem. I don't have a good solution yet. I guess I could put a bar here. I don't really like that plan at all on any of these surfaces. Let's try to keep manhandling and see what we get. I do have a vise, but there's not really anything to grab. I do have the stand, and maybe I'll put it on the stand. Let's try that. All right, got it on this Trail Buddy stand. You can see my other video where I put this thing together if you want. It bolts onto the foot peg bolt, and let's see if that will counter hold this enough to get us the torque that we need. Maybe I had it. Maybe that was my click. Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Okay, after all that, I had it torqued. I had counter held it well enough, but that's fine. So we've got this rotor on here now. Take the wood and the wrist pin out. Don't need that anymore. So now I've got the rotor. The chain hangs out. Things are turning smoothly, no issues. So my next step is the stator, the windings. So I bought this one used as well with the rotor. I see no damage. The wires all look good. The connections look okay. There's one barrel missing there. I will repair that later. So this seems to slot in here. There's a plastic, sort of plastic bushing that slots in there. There's another one that slots in here. This goes down and picks up the backside of the shift drum, so it must have some kind of a signal from the shift drum, some electrical connection or something. Probably detects it's in neutral would be my guess, so that you can't start the in gear, but that I am guessing. I do not know. That drops in. That drops in. This goes on. Have new bolts again. Cap head stainless 6mm. Drop them in, 3 of them. We'll stick with my previously identified torque spec. I did torque the case bolts around the perimeter. The video did not record that. They all get torqued. That's pretty easy to counter hold. That's not a lot of, it's not a lot of force on those. Sorry you didn't see that. And there is, we're not quite done yet. There's one more. And this may seem completely obvious to everybody, but if you don't know, this is all bathed in oil. This whole stator assembly is all completely bathed in oil. This is all on the lubrication side of the engine. The whole, everything you see is internal to the case is bathed in oil. All right, let's make sure that still spins. No issues. That does. Okay. Here, and one last thing. There's this little, it's like a Bakelite bushing, and it goes here. And I think it's to insulate this from the case, but it goes right there. So now we are done with this side. We have to put the case on this side. I will get that now. Okay, we'll torque this stator down. All right, next is this top case. Got this little bushing in, got these pressed down. In the top case, there is a gasket. We'll get to that in a minute. This is the top case. 2 seals, one here. This is the shift rod for your left foot. This is the drive gear. This is the chain drive gear. And this is the transmission drive gear to the sub-transmission. There is a seal here, so we need to put 2 seals in. Old seal, painted gray, because I painted it with the seals in. New one. Shift one, I had to pick that one out. That was a pain. There's the new one. I'll whack those in. Underside, not much to it. There's no oil here. This is where the chain rides. So the chain rides outside of the lubrication space. There is an oil passage here, this little hole. I don't know if you can see it, the little hole for oil from the oil case to go into the sub-transmission area. You'll see that a little bit more. This is where the selector rod for the sub-transmission goes in, and you'll see that more in a second. So, seals and gasket. Flush. Don't think it needs to be more. This does not have a stop lip on this one. This one you can only do sort of flush. For this seal, you could push it, I suppose, all the way through. And go and flush here with the inside of this transmission sub case. That looks good on this side. This one has a shoulder, could go deeper. Not quite sure. I'll leave it the way it is. Okay, we're gonna do a little oil on the shaft. A little oil here. Now we've got gasket. So there we go. You can see how it avoids where the chain rides. All the bolt holes are exposed. Stator is clear. This cover has a couple of locating pins, one here and one here, which will locate here and up here. It's got to fit those 2 seals. This one has to go over the spline, which drives from the sub-transmission, and this one over the gear shift selector. So we'll just take our time, a little wiggle. Hopefully it will all marry up. It went down. There we go, even better. I'll figure out fasteners and I'll come back to you. Okay, case bolts. So we have 25 millimeter here, 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 and here. Then we have 35 millimeter right here, just one. Then we have 45 millimeter right here in the middle. I'm sorry, 40 millimeter right here in the middle. And then 45 millimeter right here on top. So that can't be right. This is dropping down too far. This has got to be a 45 millimeter as well. Let's try. Yeah, that's another 45. So both of these are 45s. That's a 40, that's a 45, and that's a 45. We're going to torque them down. Okay, sub-transmission. So what we have is the chain drive gear. You can see it spinning. This is the driven gear out of the engine. This spline shaft is power out of the engine. So this turns, goes through the sub-transmission, then goes back down and turns this gear. They spin on a concentric shaft. So let's try a few things here. This first part, a little oil in here. This is the drive gear on the chain shaft. Okay, so that goes on. Then we have spacer. This is splined as well. And then we have a circlip. Circlip holds that down, so we will put that in. Go all the way down with that. Till it snaps in. Not sure we're there yet. Give it a little tap. There we go. All right, that circlip is in. Now, we have this counter shaft. It is indexed. It has some oil passages, and it's indexed with a pin down here. So it does not rotate, it is fixed. Then we have our 2 speeds. Well, I shouldn't say 2 speeds, but that adjusts. Then our last gear drops in over this shaft like this. I see. So it either, let's talk about it. It has it has holes, and it will engage when it drops all the way down onto the chain shaft, or it will be up and engage with this gear. So what we need next is our selector fork. There is this selector fork assembly with a couple of ball detents in it. It's either up or down. And it rides in here. So it goes like this, rides in here, and it goes up or down. Let's pry that up. Up or down. Now, to do that, it has this lever that actuates, and that lever actuates from the outside. So it's one gear or the other. Now this has to go in next, actually before the gear shift lever. It has an O-ring to keep oil from leaking out of here. I have the new part, new O-ring, Honda part number There you go. So let's put that on. All right, so we've got new O-ring on our selector. Selector goes in machined hole in the case. There we go. High, low, high, low, high, low. We have our selector. It's got a half moon. Can really only go one way. You could flip it the other way, but it would point into the case, so that's not going to do you any good. And then, so that's our low or high, and that's the alternative. The last is the clip that holds that plate on. This is the clip. It goes on really only one way. That's it. So now that's fixed. Can't come out. That clip holds it in place. That's good. I'll leave it up for now so I can locate these selectors. I think I have to put this all in as an assembly to sort of marry them together. This pin on the side of the shift detent has to go inside that fork. This has to go with it because it will not fit underneath this ring. So we got to kind of do them all at once. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. We're going to see what we do. Little wiggle, little jiggle, little rotate. There we go. All right. Okay. There we go. In this position, the round lower plate is engaging in the teeth, the sprocket. If I change gear selection to this, it comes up and these two gears engage. That's it. It's as simple as that. Hang on and I'll get the cover, and there's a gasket that goes on here, 4 bolts. Okay, sub-transmission cover. It's the outside of it. There you go. You want to know this is high, this is low, these gears engage as low. Inside the cover, room for the 3 shafts. This carries a bearing. There's the old bearing here. You can maybe make out the number 6202. New bearing 6202. I want to see the case flips this way, so that bearing rides right here. There you go. We're going to put a little oil on it. Get some oil in here now. Not going to hurt. Gasket, again from that Versa kit. Everything lines up nicely. Cover. It's got to engage 3 machined spots. 1, 2, 3. This is not exactly easy. I remember taking this off was hard. So we will hope that it sort of goes down reasonably easy. We may start some bolts Got bolts, 225s, 240s. I think these are technically supposed to be 22s, which I don't have. 25 seems a little short. It might be just right. This side has the longer ones, and they go through into the chain space, or the not inside the crankcase. So this calls for 22s over here, 22 millimeters. I've got 25s. I think 22 is going to be a little too short given how much clearance there is. I'm hoping to use these screws to snug the case down. And it is in fact working. Heard a nice little snug creak. Go diagonal, snug that. Let's see. That's it. That's all the throw. That's what you get. We're gonna snug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Torque same as before. That's our sub-transmission. Pretty simple. There's two sort of marks on the case here. There's also the L and the H. You can see those. That's it. Okay, so it's time to set this up on the stand so I can do the top end and the jug. I'm going to lightly attach the timing cover. Put a gasket. I do not have the right hardware for this yet, so I'm going to just use some temporary 6mm screws just to get this temporarily in place. Hold it in. I don't want to get anything inside here now that I've got it all clean inside and all put back together. So I will just run these down and just snug them. There are O-rings that go under each one of these as well. Again, remember that's an oil bath inside there. So that's it, just to keep debris out. Couple of things I have not done that I'm going to do to handle keeping this thing closed up. If I rotate it to the top, this is the oil fill dipstick. Oil fill dipstick. I have a new O-ring for it. I'll go ahead and put that on now. I got the new O-ring from Beatrice Cycles. So there's old O-ring, new O-ring. I got the new O-ring from Beatrice Cycles. Goes on. That's just going to keep more stuff out of this engine from places that I don't want it. And then finally, for those following along, you flip it completely upside down. drain hole. And there's the drain plug. This is the one that was in it. This is the washer. Oh my gosh, is it destroyed. It doesn't really fit very well, and man, was it mangled. It took a job to get it off. From the Netherlands, CM SNL. New drain plug crush washer. We will put this on. We will just snug it up for now. Again, this is to keep things out of the engine. We are not going to crush this down. They do, I believe, make some magnetic drain plugs, which seems a smart option. I do not have one yet. I may get one later. These are the 4 spots for the foot peg. This is the timing spring, or the timing spring tensioner, the timing tensioner, chain tensioner. That's what that is, and that's on the bottom. That's all that you see on the bottom. That's it. I'm finish this video and have it on the stand for the top end next.